In the early 1840s, a man by the name of Abraham Thompson founded the Kidd Salvage Company.
His mission? To raise a sunken pirate wreck from the depths of the Hudson River.
Loaded with treasures plundered by the notorious privateer turned pirate, Captain Kidd.
Hello folks, I'm so very happy you're here. My name is Joe McGowan.
William Kidd was born in Scotland in 1654 to John and Bessie Kidd. John, a seaman, introduced William to seafaring life from an early age, together making transatlantic voyages, pursuing the opportunities in the newly acquired British colony, formerly New Netherland.
From a young age, William possessed a natural talent in making the right connections. And in time, William would come to pursue the icky business of privateering.
Where pirating was a hangable criminal offense, privateers were officially permitted to operate, provided they served their nation's interests, and part with a percentage of their plunder.
Privateers, in a way, acted as pirates who hunted pirates.
When William Kidd was 35, he joined up with the mostly French crew of the St. Rose, privateers captained by Jean Fontaine, who stalked the waters between Africa and the Caribbean, raising Dutch and Spanish operations.
Mid-voyage, as it so often occurs throughout history, Britain and France went to war, now adding British targets to the Rose's menu.
Kidd, with compatriot Mr. Robert Culliford, along with their few fellow Englishmen, mutinied, murdering the remaining French mariners left aboard, while Captain Fontaine was aiding in the land raid of an English colony in St. Kitts of the West Indies.
The Britons commandeered the vessel, renaming her Blessed William. Kidd was named captain and received a letter of marque on behalf of the British colonial government of St. Kitts
to raid French settlements and vessels both throughout the Caribbean and along the eastern coast of colonial America.
1 year after capturing the Rose, Captain Kidd lost the ship to Robert Culliford, who hijacked the vessel while Kidd was ashore in Antigua.
Kidd then returned to New York City, where he privateered for the East India Company, capturing pirates along the coast of New England. Kidd was an unconventional character among the city's upper echelon. A landowner and philanthropist, Kidd is said to have aided in the construction of Wall Street's Trinity Church in New York City. Kidd also met and married Sarah Bradley Cox Ort, a young widow recently wealthy with an inheritance from her late husband.
In 1695, Governor Belmont of New York, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts offered Kidd a commission to specifically hunt down a list of pirate enemies to the British Empire. One of those pirates listed was Kidd's old associate, Captain Robert Culliford.
The expedition was financed by a partnership of wealthy lords, including King William III of Great Britain, whose cut was 10% the plunder. Kidd was bestowed a new ship, the Adventure Galley, armed with 34 cannons, 150 hand-picked men, and oars, negating the ship's reliance on favorable winds.
The ship departed from London, and it is said as the galley sailed out the River Thames, Captain Kidd and his crew refused to salute a Royal Naval yacht.
Scorned, the yacht fired a cannon shot warning, demanding the galley's respect. Kidd again refused, his unruly crew slapping their backsides in defiance.
As punishment, a chunk of Kidd's men were conscripted into the Royal Navy.
Short-handed, Kidd made his way to New York, capturing a French vessel along the way. Crew replenished, Kidd sailed back across the Atlantic and down the African west coast. Pirates unlucky enough to have encountered the galley told of the captain's torturous cruelty, earning Kidd's infamous reputation.
While making port in southern Africa, 1/3 of the galley perished in a cholera outbreak.
Onward, circumnavigating the continent, the galley arrived in Madagascar, no targets in sight. Losing their momentum, the crew insisted on pirating merchant ships under protection of the crown, in a bid to earn some loot for their troubles. Kidd refused to violate his contract.
Adding to his poor luck, the galley was falling into disrepair. The crew openly doubted the captain's ability. Mutiny was in the air. It was then the first official crime of Captain Kidd's was to be committed.
A gunner by the name of William Moore loudly challenged the captain's leadership. In response, Kidd bludgeoned Moore to death with a bucket in full sight of the crew.
This only heightened tensions, and Kidd soon found himself fully at odds with his crew. His next move would seal his fate.
Off the southern tip of India, the galley sighted a local trade ship employed by Armenians and under the protection of the French crown. In a move to avoid being murdered by his crew, Kidd gave the order to attack the vessel, and capture it they did. Their prize, the ship Quedagh Merchant, was loaded with silks, spices, silver, gold, and various eastern treasures.
Kidd abandoned his leaky galley, seizing the merchant for himself, renaming her the Adventure Prize. Breaching his contract, Captain William Kidd was now officially a pirate, wanted by the British Empire.
The line between privateer and pirate is a murky matter of perspective. Attitudes on the profession shifted, and the Royal Navy was dispatched to bring Kidd to London and be charged for his crimes.
Kidd returned to Madagascar, encountering old frenemy pirate Captain Robert Culliford.
It is said Kidd was cordial with Culliford, even toasting the pirate's health, resigned in the solace that he and Culliford were both wanted men the same.
After trading some loot and losing some of his crew to Culliford, Kidd returned to New York.
Burying treasure along the eastern seaboard, British men of war on high alert. One treasure stash was buried on Gardiner's Island, nestled in the eastern fork of Long Island. The island's residents, John and Mary Gardiner, couldn't help but be charmed by the gentleman pirate, and they permitted Kidd to bury his loot on their ancestral land.
Gardiner Island had come into the family's possession in 1639 when it was purchased by Lion Gardiner,
an English military engineer who arrived in Connecticut colony to fortify their defenses. Lion both constructed and commanded Saybrook Fort that guarded the mouth of the Connecticut River and saw some of the most brutal combat of the Pequot War of 1636.
The war erupted the result of colonial pressures. The landscape was changing, foreign disease had decimated the native population, and tensions over native trade rights with New England broke,
unleashing a murderous conflict between Pequots, allied with Western Niantic, and New England colony, allied with a coalition of native nations.
The violence committed over the following 2 years is probably some of the most hellish I have ever heard.
Enemies took dismembered trophies in a free-for-all of atrocities, climaxing with a ruthless massacre that all but eradicated the Pequot.
Lion Gardiner purchased Gardiner's Island, though he called it the Isle of Wight, where he established his lordship and manor.
20 years after the Pequot War, Lion Gardiner's 16-year-old daughter, Elizabeth, fell ill soon after giving childbirth. The girl claimed a dark figure stood at the foot of her bed, tormenting her with black magic. Elizabeth died the next day, but not before naming her supernatural assailant. She named Goody Garlic, the wife of a man who worked on Gardiner's Island, an ornery East Hampton woman known for being argumentative.
5 years before the Salem witch trials, Garlic was investigated for the capital offense of witchcraft by Connecticut colony, which then governed Long Island.
Lion argued his departed daughter's word that Goody Garlic committed murder by witchcraft. The trial was brought to the High Court in Hartford, where Goody Garlic was thankfully found not guilty.
The Garlics went on to live their lives in East Hampton, Long Island, though I'm not sure if they continued working for Lion.
41 years later, Lion Gardiner's grandson, Jonathan, made a deal with Captain Kidd to bury his treasure on the family's island estate.
Some say Kidd then sailed up the Hudson River, tailed by British warships.
In desperation, Kidd decided he'd rather see the Adventure Prize and her cargo at the bottom of the river than in the hands of his pursuers.
So the pirates set the prize ablaze, sinking her at the foot of Dunder Mountain. As I was saying, the prize was swallowed by the Hudson and the pirates disappeared into the hills.
From there, Kidd made his way to Boston, where he was arrested by order of his old business partner, Governor Bellamont, who sought to distance himself from the pirate captain.
Kidd's wife was also arrested, and their assets confiscated by the crown.
Kidd was imprisoned in the Boston Gaol, where he was slowly driven mad in solitary confinement. He was then brought to London to stand trial and found guilty on 5 counts of piracy, as well as the murder of William Moore.
The recovered treasure from Gardiner's Island served as evidence in the trial.
Kidd was executed the 21st of May in 1701, publicly hanged twice.
Let's just say the first go didn't quite finish the job.
Kidd's corpse was then gibbeted over the River Thames, a warning to any would-be pirates. And so is the story of Captain Kidd. 140 years later, in the 1840s, Abraham G. Thompson, an ancestor of Lion Gardeners and then landlord of Gardiner's Island, launched an effort to unearth the sunken adventure prize from the floor of the Hudson River. As if claiming a birthright of sorts, Thompson invested in a salvage company, closely following Captain Kidd's trail, and, systematically, Thompson dredged the waters at Dunder, but turned up nothing.
Despite this, many claim the lost pirate treasure of Captain Kidd's is still out there, hidden along the banks of the Hudson Highlands. And who knows? Maybe you're the lucky one to find it. Hey folks, thank you so much for joining me on my voyage with Captain Kidd. Hope everybody's doing well. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and you can also subscribe to the channel where you keep up